Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Radio IMWS, broadcasting live from the Al Hikmah Centre in Batley, West Yorkshire. Now then, this is another installment of Muhammad's Hour, and joining me live in the studio with just a few days left to the Batley. And so, I'm very pleased to see Mr. Bismillah just wandering. I'm not going to give him too much of an introduction today. He is our co-host, of course, and Muhammad's Hour just turned into the Ball of Politics Hour. It's not going to be a full hour, half an hour, but I'm very pleased to welcome into the studio this evening. With just a few days left before we go to the polls for the by-election. It is, of course, Tracy Brabin from the Labour Party. Tracy, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
It's a complete and utter pleasure. Thank you.
That's great. Now then, listeners out there, you can listen to us live via the World Wide Web at www.imws.org.uk. You can also find us in picture and sound on YouTube. Just go onto YouTube, Radio IMWS, and we are presently there. I don't think I combed my hair this evening, but never mind. And if you want to send a message, now remember, as I said at the start of the program, today we're only doing half an hour, so we've only got Tracy until 8:30 this evening. We have
half an hour.
Yes. So any questions or messages, please send them by WhatsApp or text message to 07460809218. Tracy, I do have to say, most of our listeners start messaging in after half an hour when they've warmed up.
I know, it's so annoying. It's just such a busy diary. The issue is I'm trying to meet as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And there's only so many hours in the day, and I know I wanted to come here, so we managed to squeeze out half an hour.
That's terrific. Right. Well, I'm not going to delay it any longer. Right. First of all, Tracy, first thing I want to know is politics and you. When did you meet and why?
Me and politics, we started, obviously, working class background, grew up on the Howden Clough estate. I think if you come from that background, politics is how you live your life. Because, for example, as a small child, my family became homeless, and we had to rely on the council for our council flat. Suddenly that's where politics starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I would say more broadly, Greenham Common and the miners, and I've also worked for a number of years at Freedom from Torture with refugees in a writers organisation, and mentoring refugees and asylum seekers. So obviously through the Labour Party, I've been a Labour Party member for over 20 years, and through women's politics as well. So I've been, lots of people just know me as an actor, but I'm also someone that's been very active in community campaigns and so on. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I know you want to get in. Go on.
Well, there's lots to ask. Not sure where to start. But first of all, congratulations on being selected for
Thank you so much.
Parliamentary candidate.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best. But I think you're one of 10 candidates, I believe.
I'm not sure how many. I think over 70 people applied initially. I'm not really sure. This is just what people.
70 for the Labour Party, but in the candidates running for the by-election.
Yes, of course. It's myself and 9 others. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of your sort of political sort of aspirations and your political sort of career, where do you put yourself on the political spectrum in terms of centre, right, left?
I would say I'm just a Labour woman through and through. I don't come from that sort of tribal politics, because I come, as you know, from an acting background, and I'm a writer. I'm not part of the Westminster bubble. It's not what I'm interested in. I would say I'm absolutely focused on the issues for the people of Batley and Spen. And to be honest, they don't seem to be tribal. Whether you're left or right of the party, you care about Dewsbury Hospital. Whether you're left or right of the party, you care about transport. And that seems to be actually the role of a constituency MP who can bridge the gap between the people and the House of Parliament.
So who do you look up to in the Labour Party, past and present?
Betty Boothroyd, another fine Yorkshire woman. I also have some colleagues within the Labour Party that I really admire. Lisa Nandy, Yvette Cooper. There's a lot of younger members coming up. Angela Rayner, I think, is incredibly impressive. The work she's done on grammar schools is fantastic and has really rallied and captivated the new membership of the Labour Party, the younger members of the Labour Party who've just recently joined, and she's really driven that campaign through in the summer. So yeah, it's left and right. I don't really necessarily care what badge you wear. It's what you deliver.
So if you are elected, what are the 4 or 5 pledges that you think you will actually carry out before the next general election?
Well, we don't quite know when that is, so I'm shy of saying because it could be next year, couldn't it? The next general election.
Yeah. So
But,
what are your priorities, and
yeah,
what are you sort of saying? These are the kind of things you will actually
Yeah.
put to the top of the agenda.
Well, certainly talking to people of Batley and Spen, I know absolutely the biggest priority we've got to deal with is Dewsbury Hospital downgrade. And I don't know if you came to the event with Jeremy.
No.
All right. And he also agrees. We cannot be North Kirklees if Huddersfield is also downgraded. We cannot be an area as big as North Kirklees without a dedicated A&E. And I've been already working with Paula Sheriff, who is leading this campaign right from the front and very impressively to slow this downgrade down. Not only slow it down, but take them to task, the CCG and North Kirklees, and the Trust rather. Actually, how are you delivering this? Who's accountable if it goes wrong? How can we actually dig into the matrix of deliverables? We can't just allow it to slip away. And I think only 1% having been part of the consultation of our population, we need to let people know what's going on so we can
talking about
get
the
people
hospital
going.
issue for well over a year
I
now.
know.
And it's been slipping.
Yeah.
What difference are you going to make?
Well, I think Paula's leading the way on that, in that she's actually taken them to task on the privatisation on the sly, and Virgin Healthcare as well. I don't know if you saw her question the House of Commons about the fact that Virgin are actually offering 2 appointments when 1 appointment would do. And I think what we have to say to them is, okay, we understand it's all about finances, but we need to have an opportunity for one to reverse it if it's not working. We also need to understand who is accountable if people are starting to die from our region. We're going to, Paula and I will sit down and talk to the relevant ministers to actually demand very clear points of reference about actually what are you delivering, how are you delivering it, are you failing? Because to be honest, if there are ambulances being diverted currently from Pinderfields to Dewsbury, where are those ambulances going to go if Dewsbury's downgraded? We're going to be actually challenging them with very serious questions.
So we're saying the hospital might be one of the things that you will actually fight tooth and nail for.
Yeah.
What are the other ones?
I think transport is a huge issue. We're a very disparate community. Batley and Spen, Batley obviously has the bus station, but buses are, it seems to me, ad hoc and random. There's also a problem around schools about traffic. I experienced that today because I was doing the school gate at my old primary school, Windmill Primary School, and a couple of the parents came up to me and asked me, please do help about the traffic situation around the school. I can only see that getting increasingly worse. We need to deal with that. I can't believe, as somebody who loves the theatre, and I think theatre should be accessible for all, that the last bus from Leeds is 10:30 to come back into our community. How can young people go to the theatre, use the amazing things that Leeds has to offer? We have to tackle that. So transport. I also want to bring my understanding of the cultural industries, which is, as you know, manufacturing is shrinking. The cultural industries are one of the few in our country that's actually growing, film and television and so on. And 100 million was made last year. I want to bring my experience to my area where I grew up and say to young people, you don't have to leave to fulfill your dreams. You don't have to leave to get the best training. If you want to be a clapper loader or a boom operator, there are 35 jobs often behind every camera for one person on TV. There are a multitude of jobs that our young people aren't being given these opportunities to reach out and stretch themselves and think, what else can I do apart from what's being offered to me at the moment? Also, I'm very concerned that we don't have a dedicated sixth form. education is really important to me, and it seems to reduce aspiration
We've
if
got
you
one
don't.
at the girls' school, but not at the boys'
Exactly.
school.
And I think that's an issue, and it's something I would like to hopefully maybe work with Paula. You know, I think we could have a very good relationship there to try and talk to education departments and say, you know, how can this continue? We need to make sure that our young men particularly have the opportunity to go on to sixth form and university.
Okay. Now then, we've got some questions coming, so let's get the
Yes, we
Great
won't
stuff.
disappoint
Bring them
everybody.
on. Come on.
Okay. Following the recent EU referendum, we have seen an increase in religious and race hate crime. How can we address this issue, and how can we give confidence to victims to report these deplorable crimes?
I think it's unacceptable. It's absolutely a terrible indictment of the route of Brexit, that we are becoming more inward looking, less open, less generous spirited, less inclusive. I think it's something that I would take the relevant ministers to task about. I think Telmama is a good organisation. I think we need to have those conversations with people who may be shy of bringing in the police, and making a complete list of what is actually going on to quantify the problem. I also think we can't disregard that this by-election, what we saw as a tragedy, a lot of people on the right have seen as an opportunity. And I think the way forward for Batley and Spen is to show the outside world that we are united, and that Batley and Spen is not a place for this sort of hatred and division. And in order to do that, I would urge everybody to come out and vote, because my absolute ambition is for the far right to lose their deposits. And I think that would be a fantastic statement, that this is not the place for this sort of hatred.
I mean, what's your understanding about the type of racial or religious problems that exist within the town itself? I mean, you've mentioned about the far right parties who have fielded candidates. I don't think any single one of them is actually from the town. Going out and about, meeting people from the constituents across Batley and Spen, what impression are you getting?
Well, it seems to me that Batley and Spen, I think, is a place of tolerance. I can't disregard that there are elements in society that are that want to fuel hatred, but I do see a lot of tolerance and integration. And I would say that does come from Jo and her legacy, that her reaching out between communities. I do know in other places like Leeds, there have been Europeans who have been attacked. And I know that given that the prevent strategy, some women particularly feel that the veil is seen as something that could be antagonistic in some communities. I'm going to be really honest with you. I haven't, in all the people I've spoken to, heard of an attack on an individual. I mean, maybe that is conversations we're going to have further down the line. An individual from the community who wants to tell me about that situation, about that attack. And actually, it makes me feel very positive for the future of Batley and Spen, that I haven't had people coming up to me and saying, I've had someone pull off my veil, I've had someone call me this name. It is obviously happening, but I'm not seeing it when I visit communities and people's homes and on the doorstep. I'm not blind. Obviously, it's going on, and I would tackle it, and we would work tirelessly to cut it out of our society. But I would say I'm very optimistic at the tolerance I've seen.
Okay. On key issues, you mentioned Dewsbury Hospital, schools, transport. What about the town centre itself? Obviously, Batley has lost a lot of funding over many years. What's your view on Batley town centre?
Well, it's obviously the last couple of years, there's been a fantastic amount of work from voluntary sectors and businesses to regenerate Batley. And I would say one of the jewels in the crown for me is Batley Railway Station. The people who volunteer there from all members of our community give time tirelessly. It's an absolutely brilliant welcome when you get off the train. We had our meeting with Jeremy Corbyn in the building which has been renovated and hopes to be a cafe. And I'm hoping that regeneration will spread all the way down the hill towards Jessop's and the flats that are going to be built there. And talking to people out and about, lots of community members and community organisations have ideas for regeneration in Jo's memory. And I think we should build on those, and there's opportunities for all sorts of creative ideas that I'm really excited about.
Okay, we are getting questions very quickly. If you do want to send a question in, remember you've got 13 minutes. So it's WhatsApp or text 07460809218. Anyway.
Tracy, you talked about schools and particularly sixth forms and what have you. Now, in Batley particularly, we've got a number of faith schools.
Yes.
What's your position on faith schools?
I think every parent wants the best for their child. And if that's what the parents want when they come together, that's what they want for their children, I think I'm absolutely supportive. My issue would be if these schools were stepping away from integration, because we all need to be members of the community, following the same curriculum, and the Roman Catholic schools, whatever faith you follow, you're absolutely, I would support you all the way to practice that within your school curriculum. But it is about integration and supporting each other rather than division and separating people off into groups where they feel maybe less integrated.
Okay. Right. Catch one of those questions quickly.
Yeah, we can do. Just bear with me a moment. Right. Okay. What are your views on the ongoing occupation of Palestine territories and the siege on Gaza?
Well, Palestine is, it shames us all, doesn't it, that we still can't move forward on this. I would work as hard as I could possibly do in obviously we're not in government, but to challenge the situation there. I think both sides, I would say I'm a friend to both sides in that there needs to be dialogue, because you cannot entrench in separated positions where they're not acknowledging a two-state solution. That has to be the way forward.
What's your position on DBS with regards to Palestine and Israel?
BDS.
Sorry, BDS.
Boycott, divestment, and sanctions.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't know the detail of that,
Right.
but all I do know is that it is unacceptable for communities to be built outside of the Green Line and taking over land that is not yours, that has been designated to other communities, and also the way that Jerusalem needs to be seen by both sides as a holy place that can be shared equally.
So would you support a boycott of Israeli goods, particularly those coming from the occupied territories?
I have to say, I know that organizations have taken that position. I myself wouldn't be in a position to say who should and who shouldn't. If you're an organization and you'd make that decision, that's for your organization to do that.
Right. Okay. Staying on the crisis that's happening internationally, Syria. Sorry, just bear with me one moment. The current situation in Syria is desperate, with hundreds of thousands being killed and millions of people being displaced. What are the immediate issues that need to be addressed in order to resolve this crisis?
Well, I think we have to solve this diplomatically. It is unacceptable that aid convoys are being bombed. It is unacceptable that those poor people are living in rubble. I think the White Helmets are absolute international heroes. We cannot allow it to go on. As people prevaricate, in the West, there are innocent children and medics dying. We have to get involved and put as much pressure as possible on the parties to get around the table. It's awful and painful, and I'm sure everyone listening shares the same feelings.
Okay. Hi. The listener says, hi. What does Tracy think about Tony Blair?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I was early on, I will say I was a huge fan, because actually he got us into power, and we hadn't been in power for a long time. He gave a sense of new energy to the party. But I would also share with you that I left the Labour Party because of Iraq. So I then fell out of love, I would say. So that's it, yeah.
So given the Chilcot report, Tracy, would you shake hands with Tony Blair?
I don't think I'm in the position where if I didn't shake hands with him, anybody would really notice that much.
You would.
I have.
Bismillah, you have far too much
Yeah,
time on your hands.
I know. I've actually have stood behind the bar in Coronation Street set and pulled a pint with him. So I don't know whether that is the same thing or not.
Right. Okay. Now then, okay, listener wants to ask, what is your view of the prevent strategy? It is seen as very negative and anti-Muslim. Will you campaign to get rid of it?
I think the QC who recently spoke, I think it was on Radio 4, and I think he was very brave to also talk about it so openly, that it isn't working and it needs to be reviewed. And certainly a friend of mine was in a situation where the prevent strategy suddenly made his homework into a whole different set of issues, and it gave him a lot of stress and anxiety and was very heavy-handed. I think there's several things that need to be discussed about that. There needs to be more transparency. We need to have conversations with the people who are running this. Actually, what are they looking for? It seems to me that I know that 15% of prevent cases are the far right. So it isn't just totally anti-Muslim, but that is the sense, and that is the feeling that there's a feeling that our community is being spied on. And I would absolutely challenge the organizations and the ministers in charge of this to have a proper open conversation about it, where we can put forward our views of our community and say this is how it's making us feel, and it needs overhauling and looking at.
Right. Okay. Now that we're running out of time, but never mind. So listeners asking, with the extraordinary re-election of Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party, excuse me, do you think the PLP can now get behind Jeremy and form an effective opposition?
Well, I was at conference and I was really, really impressed with Jeremy's speech. I also was talking to people round and about and in the bars and so on. And there is a real sense of commitment to unity, because I don't know if you were watching the last three or 4 days. The House of Parliament now seems like we've got a proper opposition. We are more united, we are more dynamic, we are working together. Our 170 questions about Brexit, fantastic. Emily Thornberry doing incredible work. Keir Starmer, incredible work, and working together with Jeremy and his office. I'm seriously excited about how we can now start challenging the Tories on what seems to be a whole pack of lies about Brexit. They don't seem to know what they're doing. We actually, in unity, we are absolutely brilliant, and I'm very happy to see us move forward in that way.
What would you like to see happen with Brexit now? As if you are, and we do wish you the best, but if you're elected as the MP for Batley and Spen, what would you be campaigning for regarding Brexit?
Well, for me, it is to make sure that actually in the first instance, that the Labour Party are party to these discussions, and in the second instance, that the North and Batley and Spen particularly isn't left behind in these negotiations, because we want to make sure that workers' rights, trade union rights are not weakened by our exit from Europe.
Now, Tracy, there's two streams of funding that local area really relies on. One is of course European funding. The other being the council funding that we get from the local council. Now, the way we're staring down a barrel, aren't we, on this one? Because it looks, well, the Kirklees Council have got some 65 million to save, so we're going to lose a lot of funding there, which is going to affect parks, museums, libraries, elderly services, youth services. And on the other side, we're going to be losing a lot of the European fundings in a couple of years as well. Where's the bright future for Batley and Spen?
Well, I'd be fighting to make sure that the government, when they promised us the 350 million for the NHS per week, that we will be having conversations about that money. You said we would get the same money from Europe. You would match it. You've said that to people in Cornwall. You've said that to other areas of regeneration. We will be absolutely campaigning to make sure that does happen. I would say that the Kirklees Council have a really difficult job, because they're coping with absolutely terrible cuts from the Tories that are hitting us hardest. I mean, in Surrey, it certainly doesn't have the same impact. The Labour Council are councillors that do care about libraries. They do care about Red House, Oakwell Hall, and so on. They do care about social care, and they are having to make really difficult choices. I would listen to the people of Batley and Spen, and where we can, we will challenge, as I did with Joe when we managed to keep Batley and Birstall libraries open. And fully staffed. Our campaign where the people of Batley and Spen want me to, and we can work together.
Right. Okay. A question come in from a listener: for young members of the community who are interested in politics, what is the best way to get involved? So what does Labour offer? But I think there's two separate questions there, because let's be across the scale. And someone who's interested in politics, what do they do?
Well, I'd say come and join the Labour Party. And if you don't want to join, come down to meetings. And certainly over the next few months, we'll be having events. We'll be having opportunities for new members to meet each other and to get involved in campaigns. And certainly some of the brightest, most exciting ideas have come from our new members, from Emily, from Javad. They're new members with lots of energy. They understand what young people want, what the community wants. And I would welcome you with open arms. And certainly it's also a very convivial group of people, and it's a great community to be involved in, full of ideas and passion. And I think it's also very sociable, lots of events where we can spend time with each other. But also the Labour Party is, I don't know if you heard Jeremy was talking about the idea that this massive mandate that he got, and new members particularly, that they're bringing in a new energy, that we can also set up concerts and cultural events where we can enjoy each other's company and also trade ideas.
Right. Okay. Now you mentioned Jeremy Corbyn there. The big question is Jeremy Corbyn a leader who can lead the Labour Party to elect to an election victory? Bearing in mind, when the media go against you, you have problems. That's what happened with, of course, Miliband as well. So is other media going to change their approach to him? Is he strong enough to lead Labour to victory?
I would say that mainstream media, I think, is a difficult beast, isn't it? That they have really had their teeth into this campaign for Jeremy. That he has been. It's been difficult, but I would say with the team that are around him, with the campaigning, with the listening that we're doing, the talking to communities about what is needed. Sometimes it's a combination of community work, campaigning, as well as parliamentary. And now we are more united. Now we are more able to clarify our offer to the public and to the people who will be voting. I think the disenchantment from young people, particularly against politicians, I think it's understandable after the expenses scandal. We would be reaching out to those people and say, you might not be registered to vote. You might never, ever have voted. Please, please come and join us, get involved, and we can make a difference and change the future of Britain.
Right. Again, finally, Thursday, how do you think it's going to go?
Well, I am quietly positive, optimistic, primarily because of the feedback I've had on the doorstep. But I would say, absolutely, we can't take anything for granted. In fact, my mum, she goes to Age Concern, and the ladies there were saying, oh, she's already an MP. I would really try and reach out to everyone and say, please, it's not a done deal. Every vote does count. Let's absolutely get the biggest mandate we can get to say that the far right and those people that seek to divide us, they are not welcome here. They are not who we are. And say, please do come out and vote.
Eva?
Final question.
Yep.
What do you think being an MP would compare to being an actor?
Well, it's that's such an interesting question. Obviously, there is the theatre where you would go to work, and there is the Houses of Parliament. Somebody did once say to me that politics is showbiz for the ugly. I'm not sure that's true, because I've met some very good-looking people recently. I know I met some very handsome MPs and very attractive-looking women. But I would say it's a place for debate. And playwrights and writers often are soothsayers. They lead the way in ideas. And I would hope to be part of a Labour Party that has the freshest ideas, the most compelling offer to lead our country into a safer, fairer, more decent Britain and battling and spend for the 21st century.
So given you're going to be our next MP, what's the first thing you're going to do on Friday?
On Friday, I'm going to my friend's wedding. That's absolutely the first thing I'm going to do, who has supported me all the way in the Labour Party. So we're going to a Labour Party wedding.
Okay, well, all the best.
Tracy. What a treat to be here. Thank you so much for your kindness and generosity.
Thank you very much, Tracy. We do, of course, hope you, I wish you the best of luck, and hope that you are successful on Thursday, to be honest. And hopefully once that you are elected, we'll be able to get you in here for a good couple of hours and really go after the issue.
What's the record, Mohammed, for our interviews with the previous
yeah, it was just over 2.5 hours.
You can do that.
Do you know what? I'm going to set a challenge. Let's do it. Give me a little while to get my feet under the table and to get more detail about what I want to do and what's going on. But let's set a challenge. Come on, let's do it. We'll do more.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. My colleagues are going to be tearing their hair out now, but yes, let's do it.
Excellent.
Right. Okay, that's great. Tracy, thank you very much for coming in. Again, best of luck for Thursday.
Thank you so much.
And everybody, Jazakallah for joining, but hang around there, everybody. I think we might have about 5 minutes or so just after just after a short break. Stay tuned. We've got a few messages we need to give out as well, so stay tuned. We'll be back after this.